March 20th, 1992. 4:44 p.m. Gainesville, Florida. Kenny Bernstein straps into 8,000 horsepower of pure fury. The crowd holds its breath. For years, drivers tried and failed to break 300 miles per hour. Some nearly died trying. Don Garlits couldn't do it. Joe Amato couldn't do it. The best minds in drag racing said it might be impossible. But in 4.8 seconds, Bernstein blasted through at 301.70 miles per hour and became an instant legend. He collected $50,000, became the king of speed, and changed NHRA forever. But then, he walked away. Not once, but 3 times. First in 2002. Then 2007. Finally 2011. Today, Kenny Bernstein is 80 years old. And where he is now. What he's doing. Most fans have no idea. Some think he disappeared. Others wonder if he lost everything when the sponsors left. The truth is far more interesting than the rumors. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where the king of speed is, what he's doing, and why his story has the perfect ending. Stay till the end, because Kenny's current life will surprise you. Welcome back to Regal Rides. I'm here to tell you stories that matter. Hit subscribe, because this one's special. The 300 miles per hour mystery. Before we talk about where Kenny is now, you need to understand what 300 miles per hour meant in 1992. Because it wasn't just a number. It was a barrier that had defeated the greatest drivers in drag racing history. Picture this. You're sitting in the stands at Gainesville Raceway. It's qualifying day. The smell of nitromethane burns your nostrils. The sound of top fuel cars rattles your chest. And everyone's talking about the same thing. Will anyone ever hit 300? Here's why it seemed impossible. At 300 miles per hour, you're covering 440 feet every single second. That's longer than a football field. In 1 second, your brain can't process visual information that fast. Your body experiences G-forces that would make fighter pilots uncomfortable. The technical problems were brutal. Tires in 1992 couldn't handle that kind of centrifugal force reliably. They'd blow out, sending 2,000-pound cars cartwheeling down the track at highway speeds. The engines? They were grenading regularly at 290 miles per hour, connecting rods snapping like toothpicks. Cylinder blocks cracking. Catastrophic failures that turned $100,000 engines into scrap metal in milliseconds. And the danger, let's be real about this. Drivers had died chasing 300. Others had been horribly injured. At those speeds, when something goes wrong, there's no time to react. You're along for the ride, and you better hope the safety equipment works. Don Garlits, the absolute legend of Top Fuel, had been trying for years. Big Daddy had the equipment, the knowledge, the experience. He'd hit 290-something multiple times. But 300? Couldn't crack it. Joe Amato, 5-time NHRA champion, couldn't do it. Eddie Hill tried. Gary Ormsby gave it everything he had. The best drivers with the best equipment kept hitting the same wall. By early 1992, serious people in the sport were asking, is this the limit? Have we reached the absolute maximum of what a top fuel car can do? Some engineers thought so. They'd run the calculations. The tire technology wasn't there. The aerodynamics weren't understood well enough. Maybe 295 miles per hour was the ceiling, and that was that. But one team thought differently. Kenny Bernstein, his crew chief Dale Armstrong, and their new magneto specialist Wes Cerny had been working on something. They'd made modifications to the car, tweaked the tune-up, changed their approach. And in March 1992, they were ready to find out if they were crazy or brilliant. March 20th, 1992, the day everything changed. Let me take you through that day minute by minute, because this is history. It's Friday afternoon. Qualifying rounds at the Gator Nationals. The weather's perfect, sunny, moderate temperature, good air density. Conditions are ideal. Kenny Bernstein and his team roll the Budweiser King to the burnout box. The car is absolutely beautiful, red, white, and gold Budweiser livery gleaming. It looks fast sitting still. Dale Armstrong, Kenny's crew chief of 10 years, is making final adjustments. They've been together so long they barely need to talk. Dale knows what Kenny needs. Kenny trusts Dale completely. The crew does the burnout. Massive clouds of tire smoke fill the air. They're heating the tires, getting them sticky for maximum traction. The car backs up, stages in the beams. Kenny's sitting there in that cramped cockpit, 8,000 horsepower rumbling behind him. His helmet's on. Belts are tight. There's no radio communication. Once that tree starts, he's on his own. The Christmas tree lights up. 3 amber lights counting down. This is it. Yo, 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 green. Kenny dumps the clutch and the Budweiser King just explodes forward. The violence of a top fuel launch is something you can't understand unless you've experienced it. 5 gs of acceleration pressing you back into the seat. The car shaking so hard your vision blurs. The noise so loud it's not even sound anymore, it's a physical force. The front wheels lift. 6 inches off the ground. Kenny's fighting the steering wheel, making tiny corrections. At these speeds, a small mistake means disaster. The car's moving so fast that by the time your brain processes what's happening, you've already traveled another 100 feet. 1,000 feet. The car's still accelerating. 2,000 feet. The rear tires are growing from centrifugal force, changing the effective gearing. 2,500 feet. The engine screaming at 8,500 revolutions per minute, burning 12 gallons of nitromethane per second. 3,000 feet. The finish line. Kenny crosses. The automatic shutoff kills the engine. The parachutes deploy, -4 gs slamming him forward against the belts. The car's slowing down. Kenny's coasting, shaking off the adrenaline. And then he looks at the scoreboards. 301.70 miles per hour. For a second, Kenny doesn't believe it. Did that really say 301? He's still got tunnel vision from the run. His hands are shaking from the vibration. But as he drives back to the pits, he can hear the crowd going absolutely insane. The crew is jumping up and down. Dale Armstrong has the biggest grin you've ever seen. They did it. They actually did it. But here's where it gets intense. That first run doesn't count for an official NHRA record. The rules require a backup run within 1% of the first speed. So Kenny has to do it again within the next hour. The pressure is unbelievable now. The whole racing world is watching. If the car breaks on the backup run, or if they can't get close enough to 301, the record doesn't count. Dale and the crew start thrashing on the car. They're checking every system, making small adjustments to the tune-up. They've got maybe 30 minutes. Kenny's trying to stay calm. But this is his shot at history. One more run. They roll back to the lanes. Kenny straps back in. Same process. But stage. Wait for the tree. Green light. But this time, Kenny knows what to expect. He's already been to 301 once. His confidence is higher. The run feels smooth. He crosses the finish line, parachutes deploy, and he coasts back. The boards light up, 299.30 miles per hour. Not quite 300 on the backup, but it's within 1% of the first run. Under NHRA rules, that makes it official. Kenny Bernstein is now, officially and forever, the first human being to break 300 miles per hour in a piston-powered vehicle. The pits are chaos. Media swarms the team. Slick 50 presents Kenny with a $50,000 check for breaking the barrier. Cameras are everywhere. Everyone wants a quote. Kenny, to his credit, is humble. He thanks Dale Armstrong first. Thanks Wes Cerny. Thanks the entire crew. Thanks Budweiser for believing in the team. He talks about how this is a team achievement. But inside, Kenny knows. This is the moment that defines his career. Everything else he's done, everything else he'll do, this is what people will remember. March 20th, 1992. 4:44 p.m. Gainesville, Florida. 301.70 miles per hour. But who was Kenny before 300 miles per hour? Now, here's what most people don't know. Kenny Bernstein didn't just show up in 1992 and break 300 miles per hour. He'd been building toward that moment for over 20 years. Kenny was born September 6, 1944, in Texas. And unlike a lot of drag racers who grew up poor, working on junk cars with no money, Kenny came from a business family. His father ran a successful automotive parts distribution company. That background gave Kenny something unique, business sense. While other racers were mechanics who happened to race, Kenny was a businessman who happened to be an excellent driver. That combination would change drag racing forever. Kenny started racing funny cars in the early 1970s. Right away, he was different. His operation was professional, organized. While other teams showed up with beat-up trucks and mismatched equipment, Kenny's team looked like they belonged in motorsports. But the real game-changer came in 1979. Kenny landed a sponsorship with Budweiser. Not a small deal, a major, multi-year partnership with serious money behind it. This was revolutionary. Before Kenny, most drag racing sponsorships were tiny. A parts company might give you free products. A local business might put a few thousand on your car. But a major corporation like Anheuser-Busch investing millions? That didn't happen. Kenny made it happen because he understood something other racers didn't. Sponsors weren't buying advertising space on a car. They were buying results, professional presentation, brand alignment, and return on investment. The Budweiser King team became a model for professional drag racing. Matching uniforms, spotless equipment, corporate hospitality, professional Pete. Kenny treated Budweiser like a partner, not just a logo on the car. And he backed it up with performance. Through the 1980s, Kenny absolutely dominated NHRA funny car racing. 4 consecutive championships from 1985 through 1988. 4 years in a row of total dominance. But by 1990, Kenny was looking at the next challenge. Funny car was great, but Top Fuel was the pinnacle. Top Fuel was the fastest, most dangerous, most prestigious class in drag racing. If you wanted to be considered the absolute best, you raced Top Fuel. So at 46 years old, Kenny made the switch. A lot of people thought it was a bad idea. Funny car and Top Fuel are completely different. The cars handle differently. The danger level is exponentially higher. Starting over in a new class at 46? That's bold. But Kenny had Dale Armstrong, one of the greatest crew chiefs in history. And together, they started chasing records immediately. Within 2 years, they broke 300 miles per hour. That's how good this partnership was. After 300, what happened next? So Kenny breaks 300 miles per hour in March 1992 and becomes an instant legend. Most people would think, that's it? That's the peak. Ride off into the sunset as a hero. Not Kenny Bernstein. He kept racing. Throughout the rest of the 1990s, Kenny and the Budweiser King team were championship contenders every single year. They won races. They set more records. They pushed Top Fuel speeds higher and higher. Here's the crazy part. What was impossible in 1992 became routine by the late 90s. Kenny himself would eventually run 314 miles per hour. Others pushed past 320. The barrier Kenny broke became the starting point for the next generation. But there was one thing Kenny never got in Top Fuel, a championship. He had 4 funny car titles. He had the 300 miles per hour record. He had the respect of everyone in the sport. But that Top Fuel championship kept slipping away. Close calls. Championship runs that fell short. Mechanical failures at crucial moments. Racing luck just didn't go his way in Top Fuel championship battles. You could see it bothered him. Kenny's competitive. He wanted that title. By the early 2000s, Kenny was approaching 60 years old. And Top Fuel racing is absolutely brutal on the human body. The G-forces on every run compress your spine. Your internal organs take a beating. The crashes, and Kenny had been through some terrifying ones, they add up. In 2002, Kenny made a decision. He announced his retirement from driving. He was 58 years old, and he was handing the seat of the Budweiser King to his son, Bernstein. The press conference was emotional. Kenny talked about accomplishing his goals, about wanting to step back, about letting the next generation take over. Father passing the torch to son. Perfect story, right? But then 2003 happened. Brandon suffered a horrific crash at Memphis that broke his back. His racing career was in immediate jeopardy. The team was in chaos. Kenny couldn't sit in the hauler and watch. At 59 years old, the King came back. And he didn't just come back, he dominated. 4 consecutive wins to close out the 2003 season. 4 in a row. At 59 years old, proving he still had it. That comeback became legendary. Kenny raced competitively through 2004, 2005, 2006. Still winning rounds. Still running 330 plus mph. But in 2007, everything changed. Budweiser, after nearly 3 decades of partnership, decided to step back from NHRA. The beer industry was changing. Marketing priorities were shifting. The Budweiser King era was over. Kenny landed Monster Energy as a new sponsor. The car got repainted green and black. But something was off. The chemistry wasn't there. Kenny struggled to qualify at the first races. And quietly, without much fanfare, he stepped away again. For the next few years, Kenny was mostly out of the spotlight. There were occasional rumors about comebacks with different sponsors. Copart got involved briefly. But nothing stuck long-term. Then came November 15, 2011. Kenny made it official. Final retirement. Done racing. Permanently. He was 67 years old. And his statement was simple: I want to pursue other interests with my wife Sheryl. We want to travel, play golf, go fly fishing and enjoy life. No drama. No controversy. Just a man deciding to enjoy his remaining years doing something other than risking his life at 330 miles per hour. And then Kenny Bernstein kind of disappeared from public view. Which is where the mystery begins. The mystery years. Where did Kenny go? Here's where things get interesting. After Kenny's final retirement in 2011, he became much less visible in the drag racing world. He wasn't doing TV commentary. He wasn't running a team. He wasn't at every race signing autographs. For a guy who'd been one of the most recognizable figures in NHRA for 40 years, he just faded into the background. And that led to rumors. Oh boy, did it lead to rumors. Some people wondered if Kenny had health problems. The crashes he'd been through over the years were serious. Multiple top fuel accidents. Massive impacts. Did those injuries finally catch up with him? Others speculated about money. When Budweiser pulled out, did Kenny lose his financial backing? The Monster Energy deal didn't work out. Copart didn't last. Did Kenny run out of money to keep racing? Was he forced into retirement? There were whispers about family issues. About disagreements with NHRA. About burnout after 40 years in the sport. The drag racing rumor mill went into overdrive because Kenny wasn't around to set the record straight. He wasn't giving interviews. He wasn't active on social media. He just disappeared. And for fans who'd followed Kenny for decades, who'd watched the Budweiser King dominate tracks across America, who'd been there when he broke 300 miles per hour, not knowing what happened to him was frustrating. Where was Kenny Bernstein? Was he okay? What was he doing? Why did he vanish? Some fans assumed the worst. They figured Kenny must be dealing with serious health issues and wanted privacy. Others thought maybe he just had enough of the spotlight and wanted to be left alone. The mystery deepened because the few times Kenny did appear at races, it was brief. He'd show up, sign a few autographs, and disappear again. No interviews. No big announcements. Just quiet appearances. NHRA would occasionally mention him during broadcasts. The first man to 300 miles per hour. They'd show clips of the historic run. But current information about Kenny? Nothing. Even other drivers didn't talk about him much. It's like Kenny Bernstein had become a ghost, legendary in the past, but absent in the present. So what's the truth? Where is Kenny Bernstein now? What's he been doing for the last 13 years since retirement? The answer is actually pretty great. And it's going to surprise a lot of people. Where is Kenny Bernstein now? The truth. Alright, here's what actually happened to Kenny Bernstein. And trust me, this is way better than the rumors. Kenny Bernstein is 80 years old now. Born September 6, 1944, which makes him 80 as of 2024. And he's doing exactly what he said he'd do back in 2011, enjoying retirement with his wife Sheryl. Kenny splits his time between two locations. He has a legal residence in western Colorado, where the mountains meet the sky and the fly fishing is world-class. He also spends significant time in Southern California, where he still has business interests and connections to the racing world. What's he doing? Traveling. A lot. Kenny and Sheryl, who've been together for over 38 years, are checking off bucket list destinations. They're visiting places they never had time for when Kenny was racing nonstop for 40 years. Golf. Kenny's become a serious golfer. He's out on the course multiple times a week. After decades of high-stress, high-danger racing, golf is his speed now. Challenging, but nobody's life is at risk. Fly fishing. In the Colorado mountains, Kenny's found peace standing in rivers, casting lines, connecting with nature. It's about as far from the noise and chaos of drag racing as you can get. Family time. Kenny and Sheryl are enjoying their grandkids, spending holidays together, doing normal family stuff that was impossible when Kenny was traveling to races 40 weekends a year. But here's the important part. Kenny hasn't abandoned drag racing. He's just involved on his own terms now. Kenny attends about 6 NHRA races per year. Usually 2 at Gainesville, where he broke 300 miles per hour. That track will always be special to him. 2 at Pomona, the historic season opener and closer. And 2 at Indianapolis, the biggest race of the year. When Kenny shows up, it's still an event. Fans line up for autographs. Current drivers stop by to pay their respects. Kenny's still royalty in the NHRA world, and everyone treats him that way. In 2023, at 78 years old, Kenny appeared at the Denver race and actually started Antron Brown's top fuel car. There's video of it online. This 78-year-old legend, still sharp, still connected to the sport, firing up one of today's 11,000 horsepower monsters. The crowd went crazy. It was a beautiful moment of past meeting present. At the 2024 Pomona race, Kenny appeared with the famous Budweiser Clydesdales. It was pure nostalgia. Fans who'd watched Kenny race for decades got emotional. The Budweiser King, back with the Clydesdales, even if just for a moment. Kenny's also remained president of PRO, the Professional Racers Organization. It's an advocacy group that represents NHRA racers in negotiations with NHRA leadership. Kenny's business experience and deep knowledge of the sport make him perfect for that role. He's still fighting for racers, just from a different position now. Financially, Kenny's doing great. He's not a billionaire, but he's very comfortable. His smart business decisions over the years paid off. The family automotive parts distribution business continues to be successful. Real estate investments have done well. Kenny planned his retirement carefully, and it shows. Health-wise, as far as public information goes, Kenny's in good shape for 80. He's mobile, active, mentally sharp. No major health crises have been reported. The injuries from decades of racing haven't left him wheelchair-bound or incapacitated. He's one of the lucky ones. His relationship with Sheryl remains strong. They're genuinely happy together, enjoying the retirement they both earned after Kenny's intense racing career. So the truth is, Kenny Bernstein didn't disappear because of tragedy or financial ruin or health problems. He disappeared from the spotlight because he chose to. He'd spent 40 years in the public eye, and he decided he'd rather spend his remaining years living life privately, on his own terms, doing things he enjoys with the person he loves. And honestly, good for him. Hearing that right? The legacy that never fades. So let's talk about what Kenny Bernstein means to drag racing. Because even though he's been retired for 13 years and mostly out of the spotlight, his legacy is absolutely massive. First and obviously, March 20th, 1992. 301.70 miles per hour. That record will never be taken away. Kenny Bernstein was first. It doesn't matter that cars now run 338 miles per hour regularly. Kenny broke the barrier. He proved it was possible. Everything that came after built on what he did that day. It's like Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile in running. Once someone proves a barrier can be broken, suddenly everyone can do it. The psychological ceiling is gone. Kenny opened that door for drag racing. Brittany Force holds the current top fuel speed record at 338 miles per hour, set in 2019. That's 37 miles per hour faster than Kenny's record. But Brittany herself will tell you, none of it happens without Kenny Bernstein going first. Second, the business legacy. Kenny showed drag racing how to be professional, how to attract major corporate sponsors, how to present a polished image while staying authentic to the sport. Every multi-car super team in NHRA today, that model came from watching what Kenny built with Budweiser sponsorship. John Force Racing, Don Schumacher Racing when it existed, Kalita Motorsports, they all learned from Kenny's blueprint. Third, the competitive record. 69 NHRA national event wins. 6 championships across 2 classes. Countless records. Multiple generations of fans remember the Budweiser King dominating tracks nationwide. And Kenny did it clean. No cheating scandals. No controversies. Respected by competitors. He won with class and lost with dignity. In a sport that can get heated and personal, Kenny stood apart. Fourth, longevity. Kenny raced at an elite level from the 1970s through the late 2000s. Almost 40 years of top-tier performance. Very few athletes in any sport maintain excellence that long. The physical and mental demands of top fuel racing make it even more impressive. And finally, the human legacy. Everyone who's worked with Kenny says the same thing. He's genuinely a good person. He treated crew members with respect. Remembered names. Was generous with his time and knowledge. There are countless stories of Kenny helping younger drivers, encouraging struggling teams, being supportive even to competitors. That's the kind of legacy that outlasts any trophy or record. When Kenny shows up at races now, 3 generations are there. Older fans who watched him win funny car championships in the 80s. Middle-aged fans who remember the 300 miles per hour run live. Younger fans who've only seen the footage but know the legend. And they all want the same thing, to shake his hand, get an autograph, hear a story, connect with history. Because Kenny Bernstein isn't just a name in the record books. He's a living link to drag racing's golden era. He's proof that barriers are meant to be broken. He's a reminder that with the right team, the right preparation, and the right mindset, impossible is just a word. So there's your answer. Kenny Bernstein, the first man to 300 miles per hour, is now 80 years old and living his dream retirement. Traveling with his wife Sheryl, fly fishing in Colorado, golfing, and enjoying life on his terms. No tragedy, no scandal, just a legend who earned his peace. March 20th, 1992 changed drag racing forever. And Kenny's living proof that you can achieve greatness and still walk away with grace. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button right now and smash the like. Drop a comment. Did you witness Kenny's historic run? What's your favorite drag racing memory? This is Regal Rides, where legends never fade. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.